Hey folks, welcome to another episode of the Security Table. This is Chris Romeo, joined by Izar Tarandash and Matt Coles, the keepers of the Security Table. Not sure what that really entails, but sounds mythical and like it was derived from a fantasy novel somewhere.
It's in the back room right here, and we just roll it out once a week. That's how we keep it.
Where's our swords and shields?
I thought we were, it's in my contract that I will specifically be issued a sword that is sharp.
When nights a security table, we dance when I've would label with the routines.
We have a theme song. All right. We're just going to need, can you record that?
Actually, we stole that one, but yeah.
Yeah, could you just record a version of that? Or I can just generate one with my AI voice.
Did you guys see the OWASP songs in the Leaders channel? Generated by that AI engine?
I don't want to know.
There's some pretty good stuff there, really.
Did they let it analyze the leaders list so that it could find
the equivalent of listening to Eye of the Tiger on the way to the gym? Like, you really wanna get that thing secure. No, really, some good stuff there.
By reflection, there's also some really bad stuff in there.
I'm not going to say it's a zero-sum game, but it's...
Are we talking about the OWASP Leaders channel or the songs?
I was talking about the songs. I don't know what you're talking about.
The songs, totally the songs. Totally the songs. Yeah. Not a word. Hey, which reminds me, it's OWASP Board of Directors election time again.
It is.
Yeah? Matt, did you?
No.
Matt, did you? Well, now you can't anymore because it's over.
Oh, it closed?
It's locked in.
No.
But Matt, did you?
No.
Matt, did you?
This is getting weird.
If somebody wants to put my name in with looking for my mic, I can't. I
didn't. I like it too much for that. But
I'm sure it will be a great slate of candidates this year.
Yeah, me too.
We sound so committed.
Well, it's early in the morning here on the eastern coast of the United States. Okay, we should dive into this because this is probably going to take a little while.
Oh yeah.
The topic of the day, and we'll put this into the show notes, is Agentic AI Threat Modeling Framework, Maestro. And this was published on February 6th, 2025. I cannot see this name without thinking about the character from Seinfeld, the Maestro.
Yep.
Or Sorcerer's Apprentice.
That's even better. That's even more unique of a pull there.
Right.
Okay, so Maestro. It's a AI. Well, I mean, every time we have another framework, and I'm gonna save my. I did a little bit of digging into this, and I have a conclusion that I think I can draw, but I'm gonna kind of let it be more of a crescendo. Trying to work in Maestro related terms. I don't have a lot of them to work with, but crescendo is one of them. Okay, so starts out with a comparison of existing threat modeling frameworks. And every time I see this list, everybody uses it. I'm like, do you know anyone that uses Octave, Trike, or Vast?
Well, I know people who use Vast.
There's a vast community that got on their Trike and just octaved out of here.
Okay, so all right, Octave and Trike. Do you know of? I do not know of anyone who's using these.
Octave is an old, ancient system that is probably used in some regulated environments and particular industries, probably just because they haven't changed in X number of years.
That sounds like a promo for Stargate. It's an ancient system that's used only on closed.
Well, remember, Octave is a giant acronym, right? But it's not a threat modeling acronym.
Yeah, it says organizational risk.
Yeah,
so it seems like something that's very painful.
But let's be positive here. It does not say dread, and it does not say attack trees
or CVSS.
So let's be positive here.
True. Yes,
And just
that's what. Why does that always show up as a threat modeling framework?
just for completeness,
Why?
Octave is operationally critical threat, asset, and vulnerability evaluation.
Yeah, sure, why not?
Which is interesting because that sounds a lot like the acronym for PASTA.
Well, so Stride, Pasta, Linden are the first three on the list, which I was just going to let those be. As you know, it's worth when you're building something to compare it to what exists in the known universe. What you would, I think what you would expect for strengths and weaknesses for Stride, Pasta, and Linden against what has been created here as Maestro. You know, basically saying Stride's great, but it's too simple. I'll skip over the Pasta one. And Linden is about privacy, which privacy has connective pieces into agentic AI, but Linden wasn't created for AI. It was created for a kind of base layer of privacy, right?
Yeah, but more importantly, Linden and Stride especially, and to some extent Pasta as well, are general purpose threat modeling approaches, right? They can be applied to any type of threat modeling, whether you're doing process, you're doing systems, you're doing privacy, you're doing security, you want to do both at the same time, right? You can apply these in a general purpose way. If you're doing space threat modeling, you know, space systems, you're doing aeronautics, you're doing trains, ports, whatever, you can apply these approaches. They work better for some things than others, obviously, because of the literature that's available, but the approach of threat modeling that they follow, and really Stride and Linden are not really methodologies, more so they're threat categories, right? Pasta is actually a methodology and not a threat category, a set of threat categories, right? So, but these are general purpose systems that are methodologies that can be used. You know, pair them with, say, Stride per element or Stride per interaction or the 4-question framework as a methodology for applying the threats. They're general purpose. I think what CSA did, not what I think, but what they did was they created a domain-specific threat modeling approach, kind of like a domain-specific language.
So here's the thing: we keep moving between those terms, and I think that you addressed it perfect. If you look at Stride is a categorization of threats. If you look at Stride per LM, Stride per element.
Not per LLM.
Let's not go there. But no, actually, that's in a bit. But Stride per element, then it's the application of Stride in a certain way over elements of a system. So one is talking about a categorization. The other is talking about how to apply that categorization. So we are jumping from one thing to another thing. You have a catalog of things, and you have how to apply the catalog of things. Right. And somehow we ended up calling both of those things methodologies, which I believe is wrong.
Yeah.
Now we come to Maestro. And I look at Maestro, and I'm asking myself, what is it? Because it confuses me.
Well,
is it a catalog? Is it a methodology? Is it both? Is it none?
It's kind of both.
Does it come in green?
It's kind of both. And actually, so then they, if you read through the description, I guess we could put the link into the show notes. They describe a set of threats and a methodology for applying those threats or identifying those threats across an agentic system. I do want to call out something of interest. I don't know if anyone's noticed this, but Maestro is an agentic AI threat modeling methodology and set of threats. There's no general Gen AI or LLM threat modeling specific methodology.
So there's the thing. Maestro comes as a layer referenced, right?
Yep.
And one of those layers is the foundation models.
Yes. Layer 1, in fact.
Yeah. Now, let me step that back for a second. We grew up in a world where you said 7 layers. You immediately thought about one thing. And I'm not thinking...
It was dip. It was Mexican. It was like a dip. 7-layer dip.
Yeah.
Put your chips in, boom.
And I'm not thinking ground meat, marshmallow, and Monica. What what I'm thinking is we will think about the TCP/IP layer thing, right? So
OSI.
you have
The OSI layer.
you have the frame, and inside the frame you have the TCP bit, the IP bit, and then you have the
started
TCP
layer
bit
one with the physical layer, right?
with the physical layer, yeah, right. So things got encapsulated, and you could close your eyes and see that layer thing actually developing and understand from that point of view. I don't get the layers of Maestro.
Well, so let's go through them, right? So I'm looking at the chart here. Layer one is foundation models, right? We know what those are, right? We think we know what those are. Layer two is data operations. So right off the bat, I think what you're highlighting is OSI was a layer. It was a layered approach because it was a structure and a set of encapsulations, as you mentioned, right? The physical layer was a communication layer. Then on top of that, there were frames and there were packets, and there was a sort of grouping of things that ended up with the application at the top having its own understanding of the bits. Whereas it seems that Maestro is building sort of a collection of services and how they relate to each other.
Structures.
But I guess if you look at it as like as a high level diagram or as a functional model, right? You have a foundation model as a grouping of things, and then you have data operations, which is a function of those models. And then there's agent frameworks, which are functions of data operations and models, right?
I don't think that was I don't think that was the intent here.
No,
it's not an OSI encapsulation thing where they all stack and they're fit inside of the box of the previous one in more detail, right?
And these are not layers because they don't base themselves on the previous one. Okay, you can have an agent framework without any concern whatsoever for foundation models. Most of agent frameworks, by the way, you just say which model we want to use. You don't have to go thinking about all the things that could go wrong with a foundational model.
Yeah. But most solid architecture is a layered approach, right, from top to bottom, where we do understand, or at least have the ability to understand. If the three of us decided we were going to build an agentic AI solution, we would 100% look at the foundational models and consider what are the potential threats that exist in us building something on top of that. So my one thought on this is I had an initial reaction like you did, Izar, and then I kind of stared at it for a while and I read some of the descriptions and I realized it does kind of build on top of the previous layers towards that agent being available basically in the ecosystem. The only one that I don't like is layer 6, security and compliance.
Just looking at that.
Like, why is that?
Why is that so far up?
Yeah, I don't care about security until I get to layer 6. Like, you got to pull security and compliance off, turn it sideways, and let it ride across all of the layers.
Exactly, because if you're waiting until layer 6 to do security and compliance, what's happening on 1 to 5?
Yeah.
Well, by that same measure, though, evaluation and observability, and even to some extent deployment and infrastructure is sort of this cross-cutting thing as well, right? So really your foundation models are things, your operations are things, your frameworks are things, your agent ecosystem are things, and then those 4, 5, and 6 are really cross-cutting across all of those, right? You deploy foundation models, you evaluate data operations, and you need security and compliance for all of those. Mm-hmm. Right, so it's really a box.
Yeah, but I'm sorry. I keep looking at the layers as if it's just tasty lasagna. When actually what you get is an amazing spaghetti.
Oh, remember spaghetti code? Remember when we loved spaghetti code?
Oh, but I still write code like that. What are you talking about?
Now we vibe through that. So don't worry. The agents are going to fix our spaghetti code.
The agent creates the.
I was going to say, do agents create spaghetti code? Can you ask them to?
I bet you that's what they do by default.
It depends on the foundational model.
Nice fake Italian accent there. Okay, so
for hate mail, send it to
Izar.
Hey! I hate when people say that making an accent is offensive, because it's not. It's just showing that you love that, and I love that. So there's a lot of love in
Italian food.
I do.
Okay, so let me bounce a big picture idea off you that hit me every time I look at a new framework like this, my immediate reaction is everything is stride. No.
Yes.
But
yes,
I had
yes,
I had ChatGPT help me
Oh no.
to map which stride categories apply to each of the threats in Maestro. And so one of the challenges in the way he stacked these things up is the threats duplicate across the
they
layers.
Yes.
They
Which
do.
all of that to say, like, what I love about stride is it's simple. I can explain it to somebody in 5 minutes. I couldn't explain this to somebody in 5 minutes. I couldn't even
But
really
if they understand
what
it in 5 minutes, it's a completely different discussion. But
True.
yeah, you can explain to someone.
True. But you can explain it in 5 minutes. And so when I started going through this, I'm like, it's just complex. It's not simple. Like, simple is what makes things possible for people to use. It's too complex.
Not that it's not simple. I feel like it's shoehorned. Like, we have this imperfect solution. Not solution. We have this imperfect thing that we can use, that we already know, that has been tested over the years, that has a clear approach. To look at those things that we have been saying for a long time, these are not new things. These are just new flavors of old things.
So let me tell you, this. So I'm totally with both of you. And stride is so easy to use because it's a general purpose thing again. You know what Maestro really is?
Mm-hmm.
Maestro is really a threat library.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. It's another catalog.
Right? It's a catalog of specific threats per layer, right? So specific threats per domain, per thing, right? Mm-hmm. And that will, right, those things are encoded in layers. And so you're going to look for this set of threats when you do foundational models. And only this set of threats, right? Whereas stride is, you're going to look across your acronym, right, of what can go wrong in that layer. So why couldn't you have applied stride to take the layers out, pull the layers out and make them its own thing, and use that as a methodology for applying stride or Linton directly?
Yep.
Or both.
It would have worked.
Yeah. And that's what my ChatGPT analysis determined.
I'm better than ChatGPT. I mean,
my thing is that
equivalent to ChatGPT.
Then at some point, Maestro jumps into cross-layer threats, right? And what's cross-layer threats? It's supply chain attacks. It's lateral movement. It's privilege escalation, data leakage, and goal misalignment cascades, which it's the one that I look at and say, you know what? Cool. That's something that might be new. But the other four, I'm sorry. Why complicate things that can, at this moment in time, be made simpler? Right?
I have a feeling that's because of interactions. So one of the things about the layers is the layers are described as these self-contained things. And then the cross, which is interesting in itself, because you look at the foundation models, for instance, if you look at the foundation model as a layer that's self-contained, like flat worlds, you can't go above and below it. There's stuff that happens at that layer, in that 2D layer, ignoring the 3D part. The cross-cutting is basically recognizing that there is a third dimension to this set of things, and there's a bleed across these layers.
If you need to create a separate class of things that are cross-layer to show that there is a justification to the layers, then I would offer that the problem is not being explained right. Okay, because take prompt injection, for example, that we love to bang on. Foundational models, they are what they are, right? They have their guardrails, they come with their stuff. Not everybody who's going to write an agent right now, for whatever that means, is going to look at the foundational model and say, I have to retrain this thing to be much more robust against prompt injection. No, they're going to take the Kellogg's box off the shelf, use it as it is, and slap some stuff like Llama Firewall on top of it and say, okay, I took care of prompt injection. Or I said, ignore anything that looks like ignore your previous instructions. It's not like they're going to go down into the layer of the foundational model and say, what are the things that I have to worry about here and what are my mitigations? Because they're not going to affect those mitigations. So why focus there?
So I've got something else to throw at me for you to noodle over and bring that fire, Izar. I think I'm going to inflame the rage that you have here.
I'm not raging yet.
Three things I've just noticed as I reread this. First, to Chris's point, look at layer 6 in the full description if you're reading the article.
I am looking at it.
Layer 6, security and compliance, parentheses, something.
Vertical layer.
Vertical layer. So
cuts across all of the layers. So this one is the drunken layer. Everybody's like, no, this one goes 90 degrees.
And then in layer 3, agent frameworks, take a look at sub-bullet number 4.
You're making me count early in the morning.
I am, yes.
Supply chain attacks, targeting the AI framework's dependencies, compromising software before delivery and distribution, resulting in compromised AI.
So the layers. So the layers already have the cross-cutting attacks built into them. So why have a separate category of cross-cutting attacks? All right. Last point. I dare you, find prompt injection in here.
I'm sure that it's there. I'm sure that it's there, but with some fancy name. Unconstrained conversational autonomy. Okay? A conversational AI agent that can process and respond to a wide range of inputs without tight constraints.
So what is this? So
wait. Oh, no, actually, go.
What is this? What is unconstrained conversational autonomy? Where did this come from? This is a pattern. So this Maestro also includes patterns. In addition to the layers. So now it's even more confusing.
Yeah.
Where do the patterns fit into the layers?
And now that we are looking at patterns, I'm going to go with something that really, to me, was very vexing. When we get to the mitigations, okay, so the mitigation for unconstrained conversational autonomy is robust input validation and safety filters designed specifically for the conversational AI use case. I'm a developer. I just read that sentence. Either I am going to get up and go breathe some fresh air, or I'm going to put this into ChatGPT and say, how do I do this? Because it's not practical.
It's jumbled is what it is. It's not practical because so how would you apply it? I guess that's the question we need to ask is how do you apply Maestro? So they have the layers, and then they have the patterns, and then they have other things. And some of those layers describe threats that are cross-cutting, and there's a separate category across those layers of cross-cutting things. So how do you apply this?
I think that at this level, at this time in the life of the whole thing, and by whole thing I say threat modeling AI, not Maestro specifically, it might be argued that there is value by itself in pointing at the problem simply because we don't have solution answers for every single problem, right? I'm not aware of something that works 100% for prompt injection. And I have said 1,000 times, if I have said once, I don't think that prompt injection is a security problem. I think that the things that prompt injection enable are a security problem. But prompt injection itself, I think that is just inherent to the fact that the way that these things work, right? But I, as a threat modeler, as someone who tried to develop a methodology, as someone who tries to be, as much as I can, educational to developers, to just throw a sentence, a generic sentence, it feels like somebody coming in and saying, there is something broken in the car. And I go back to them and say, well, I fixed something in the car. You're not giving me a defined problem, and I'm not giving you a defined solution, but both of us are happy because you told me that there's a problem and I told you that I solved something. So it's not the actionable part is flimsy.
I want to object to that a little bit, not because I don't think it's flimsy, but not for that reason, at least. Maestro sort of brings together multiple things and really doesn't do a great, well, probably doesn't do a great job about doing all of those things well. If they had separated threats to agents and the mitigations for those threats as one group, and how to look at agents and their frameworks and models to perform threat modeling, and done that very well, this might have been a different conversation. But I think what you're highlighting is that they jumbled a lot of things together and didn't do all of it very well. Right? There's a lot of information here. I mean, the threats per layer, those on our own are probably valuable.
Yeah.
The mitigations to those threats maybe needs work.
Indeed.
Right. Now, I guess one thing that's probably important that isn't described here, isn't discussed here, that at least as far as I can see, is the nature of agents as human equivalent processes.
Isn't there a human in the loop mention here in the patterns?
There might be, but I'm not talking about human in the loop. I'm talking about agents are humans.
Yes,
effectively. From a purpose of a system, an agent is effectively like a human. When a human calls when a human goes to a website and makes a function call, and it through an interface, an agent can do the exact same thing. And
with
it does
an identity, with properties, and
right. So anything that applies to humans applies to agents in terms of their function and their operation, how they're built, how they're deployed, how they're called. Maybe you don't call a human the same way that you call an agent. But so there's some very specific things around agents that are not human equivalent. But everything that's human equivalent in an agent and its operation or function should be able to use any of the human equivalent models that we already have.
I may be oversimplifying things, but for me, it's more like you go into a restaurant, you have a menu, and you have a chef, right? The chef is capable of doing a lot more. And the menu is just saying, well, in this restaurant, we are limiting the chef to doing these specific things.
That's what Fruit Library does, right? That's artificially limits.
I mean, for me, an agent would be the application of the menu on top of the chef.
Oh, sure.
So an agent would be limiting and channeling an LLM to do these specific things, limiting and channeling the ability of an LLM to interpret things and create some seemingly appropriate output based on that input to these specific things, right? So one of the things that really calls out to me here on Maestro and the layers and the mitigations and all that good stuff is that, and this may be a failure of mine, not of Maestro, but it's how I read the thing, and the red light that turns on for me is that in the middle of all the mitigations, in the middle of the generic approach to the mitigations and all that there's a jumble of personas in here that to me is very damaging to the whole effort. Not everybody who's going to apply this to an agentic system is going to be able to understand, B, evaluate, and C, perform the mitigations that are suggested at all levels. So this is going to generate a list of findings that will lead people to say, this is not relevant to me. I have no idea what this is, and I am buying this canned, so somebody else's responsibility here. And I'm not sure how, in its present form, without calling out that specific fact that not everybody is able to do the same thing at all the layers, I don't know if that's good, if that's bad, if it's something that should be better addressed. if it's, do we need Maestro for people who create foundational models? Do we need Maestro for people who create agents? Do we need to channel these things, separate these things? You
So
understand my discomfort here?
When you said personas, it's missing personas. Did you mean like personas of who people are going to use it, or personas that are part of the threat library?
Personas of who's going to use it, because my understanding is that most of the time, the person who's just using framework like Lang, whatever, LangChain, Lang, the many Langs out there to build their client, right?
Yeah.
It's not the same person who's training the foundational model. You have a data scientist doing the model, and you have a developer doing the agent.
Mm-hmm.
And now you get this list of findings and this cross stuff and all that good stuff. And either each one of them is going to look at things in their appropriate way, or each one of them is going to say, this 90% of this thing doesn't touch me, so what's the value of this?
Let's go back to the threat modeling manifesto. Do you do this by yourself, or do you do this with a group?
Yes, but
100%.
no, yes, but
Yes, but
yes, but my point is that most of the times, the people who can look at all these things in one organization are just not there.
well, that's true. You're not buying the foundational model from yourself, right?
Exactly.
You get it from somewhere else.
I'm laughing at what Izar just said. The people who could evaluate all of these things are not there.
Yeah.
If they're not there, how are they the people that could evaluate all the things?
Well, there are people that exist.
The people
Circular logic.
There are people who could be there, but they are not because
there are other places.
There are other places.
There are other places doing other
They're
stuff.
elsewhere.
They exist, but not here. They are in a different plane of existence.
We think that they exist, or they're all in Izar's head.
Schrodinger's people who could be doing AI agentic threat model?
No, it's Cheshire. You want to see their smiles.
Mm-hmm. or it's 4D. It's 4D chess.
Yeah.
4D laser chess. So I have a problem. I think I'm starting to understand the spaghetti that is in Izar's head from earlier.
That's very
Explain
dangerous.
to me then, please.
Please tell me why there's patterns with threats and there are layers with threats, but they're not the same threats. There's no connection between the threats on the patterns and the threats in the layers.
Wait, that came from my hand?
If you look at the threats that are in the patterns and you look for those threats in the layers, they don't match in many cases. In most cases, they don't match.
I see what you're saying. It's like another...
I heard you like threats. So I put threats into your patterns.
Well,
in
so
layers?
as example, prompt injection is in unconstrained conversational autonomy. It's not in any of the layers. Jailbreaking is also there. It's not in any of the layers. Unless it's redescribed as something unrecognizable, it's not there. If you look at communication channel attacks on multi-pattern agents, or you look at compromise of a higher level agent to control subordinates for the hierarchical agent pattern, where is that threat in the layer?
Well, to be fair, in the page that we are looking at, it says that this section provides some examples of agentic architecture patterns and the risks associated with them. So it's not exhaustive.
Sure, but why are they not in the layers? One more. But why are they not in the layers? Because the layers are exhaustive.
Yes.
So this is just an organizational problem. This document could have been organized to make it more simple to understand, I think is what you're ultimately saying. Matt.
Yeah, either they choose the layers or they choose the patterns, because they're building a threat library, but they're building two distinct threat libraries.
Right now, I see. Yeah.
So if we
and there's duplication. Amongst the layers, there's duplication, so that makes it even more challenging because the same threat appears in multiple spots.
Well, and then
slightly different wording.
And then they have these cross-functional threats, which are actually also built into the layers separately, and you have a layer that's vertical.
Yeah.
Blah.
What? Now, if you look at the step-by-step approach, right? it lists 6 steps.
Where
System decomposition.
D. It's under D, using Maestro.
So system decomposition, layer-specific threat modeling, cross-layer threat identification, risk assessment, mitigation planning, implementation, and monitoring.
Sure.
So, I'm sorry.
What do we do? What are we working on? What could go wrong? What are we going to do about it? And did we do a good enough job?
Wait. Let's be fair. That is the root of everything, right? So, kudos to Adam. Okay. He found the seed. But what I'm trying to point at here is that if you collapse layer-specific threat modeling with cross-layer threat identification, which for the life of me, I can't see why they have to be separate, right?
You shouldn't, because if you're going to do the layer cake, you're going to have communication between layers. Otherwise, why? Anyway,
I mean, it could be a matter of scoping. Let's look at this thing before we look at that thing, and that makes it easier to like focus on something at a time rather than just go crazy as sometimes we do.
Yeah, I mean, I can actually justify the separation of the two from just trying to make it more simple to understand. If you got a room full of people who are newer to threat modeling, instead of just throwing everything out on the table, okay, we're going to start with layer 1 foundation models. Here's the 5 things. Is there anything here? Let's go to layer 2, layer 3. Okay, then now let's talk about the cross layer.
Okay, so let's try that for a second.
Sure.
We are a team developing an agent. Okay, just developing an agent. Like a simple.
Is that layer 5 or layer 7?
Yes. So we are just developing an agent here. We walk into the room, everybody's in there. Okay, people, we are going to talk foundational models. We use Chat Claude Gemini Barco. I don't know. Okay, no problems with foundational models. Move on. Data operations. We buy it from, I don't know who. We just hold everything in the same place that we hold everything else. Okay, let's look at this one. There must be something in there. And then we get to layer 6, security and compliance, and everybody looks around and says, what have we been doing for the past 5 layers here? And because that's the vertical one, right?
Actually, I have a more concerning part to Chris's point earlier. If you're building an agent and that stops at layer 3, which is agent frameworks, and actually the agent itself is actually not part of these layers.
But wait, I'm sorry, it doesn't. It doesn't, because it gets revisited in agents in layer 7, agent ecosystem. Right?
Is an agent is a singular agent part of an ecosystem?
Yes.
Sure.
Because it lives in an environment. It interacts with stuff.
Okay, so what you're saying is, if you have an agent, all 7 layers apply.
No. What I'm saying is, depending on how you're building that agent, depending on the choices that you're making or the choices that are given to you, that are impinged upon you, some of the layers will make absolutely no sense to you because you can't do anything in that layer. And to tell me that you can solve lower level problems at a higher level, I will say no. Defense in that, and you need all the ducks aligned. You can't magically solve lower stuff up there.
Point of order. You may not be able to do anything about it other than make a decision about whether you want to do something about it. Right?
Yes.
No, and that's understand this, right? If you're building on top of a foundation model and you identify that there's a chance of, if you think about a foundation model, you say, oh, that foundation model is known to have data poisoning, I can make a decision to change models. I can't do anything about the data poisoning other than transfer the risk or change the risk.
That's right, but I'm going to be a bit cheeky here and offer that if you are doing your threat modeling of which model you should be using, at the moment that you are deciding to threat model your agent, you are very late in the game, because these should really be different threat modeling sessions.
There's ideal, and then there's actual in practice.
reality.
And my point is, the actual in practice, we are pointing people to spend cycles thinking about things that, fine, we know that these problems exist. We can look at a catalog and say, these problems exist. And here's how each one of the foundational models says that they approach them. But at the level of I'm writing an agent, most probably you don't have the expertise to address those things. And B, most probably you're going to say, the choice was made for me. There's nothing I can do.
But those are still decisions you can make. I mean, you may not be able to address the threats that come out of it. You may not even know what all the threats are, although you can see the symptoms of it. And you can make, I'll use the phrase, and it's the wrong phrase, an informed risk decision to do something about it.
A very smart person that I value very much said once that there is the practical and there is the theoretical. In theory, you're right. In practice, most people will look at that and say, again, I can't do anything about it. Why am I spending cycles on this? Right?
Sure. But
when
in
fact...
Go ahead. No, you finish your thought.
No. You go. No, you go.
But that in and of itself is a problem. Why am I spending cycles on something I can't change? Because you have the ability, you have to think about it in order to make an informed decision.
When I know how to answer that, my therapist is out of a job. So I can't say.
Well, what I mean is, if you can't do anything even though you can't do something, you can do something about it, but your choices are limited. Ignoring the problem because your choices are limited is a problem.
But that's the thing. You're not ignoring. You are looking at it's like any other third-party component, right? It's bringing its threat modeling baggage with it.
That's right. And that may be opaque to you or not, right?
Yeah. Some of them, you can come and say, okay, I can do something with my defense in depth in here, put some bumps in the road. Some of them you're going to say, hey, you know what? The decision was made. This is a base component of my design. I'm going to assume the risk. And both are valid. Right. And both include looking at the problem and saying the problem exists. And there's very little I can do about it. My whole point here is that we are in a time in this technology where lumping things together for people that can't do anything about the stuff, and what they can do is very limited, it's counterproductive at this time. If you are going to propose a framework to deal with agentic whatevers, and I'm just saying whatevers because I forgot the work. The word. It's not a whatever. It's not a disrespectful whatever. It's just that I forgot the word. But if you're going to do a framework about agents, do the framework about agents. Create the framework in a way that people can actionably respond to threats to agents, right? Don't try to boil the ocean and go back to training models and whatever, because the 99% of people out there writing agents are not training models. There's enough complexity in here to address in a simple way each real layer of the complexity in ways that are actionable to that layer. And the spaghetti in my head says, you are juggling everything together. You are dropping a cognitive load on top of me of things that I am going to feel completely unempowered to solve. How exactly did you help me?
Interesting.
Wow. Hard hitting.
That's deep.
We just
need some deep learning for that.
I blame it on Monster. I blame it on Monster.
All right. Well, we're just about out of time here. So, I mean, when I after diving into Maestro here, kind of kicking it around a little bit, maybe a little bit too much. I mean, I think there's still quite a bit of value in this research and this work that's gone on.
Yes.
I think we're kind of looking at it we're trying to optimize it for enterprise use to some degree by saying it needs to be refactored some to make it simpler and help personas understand how to use it. But all in all, I think there's some good stuff in here, and there's good threats that if this thing just gets repurposed as a threat library, I like that idea, Yuzar. But if it's a threat library, it's one of the best ones out there having to do with AI.
Look, I would say it's definitely a very, very worthy addition to the tools that we have. And from reading it, I already learned a bunch, right? And he won't let me lie about it.
I was waiting for the voice of approval over there.
Right? Right? This is it's a Duggan. How do you say it?
Yeah, that.
There you go. Okay, he said everything. But basically, just from reading it, I learned a bunch. I learned stuff that I did not take into consideration before. So definitely a lot of value in there, a lot of great work in there. Goes together with a lot of great work that's been done in the OWASP Gen AI project. Amazing stuff. I really think that, and actually just saying it in my head, it jumps, hey, if it bothers you so much, why don't you go and do it? Who knows? There is a level of translation that needs to happen here into turning this actionable to developers. And the three of us, our whole career, we are about making things actionable for developers. So that's probably what bothers us here so much. I know that's what bothered me, but definitely a lot of good stuff in here. And yeah, I'm going to make use of it.
Nice. All right. Well, Matt, any final thoughts on Maestro?
I'm going to try and get a word in edgewise with the barking dog in the background. I would have loved. It's not going to happen, but I wonder.
Folks, just so you know, Matt has no dogs. This is totally done in post-production, just to try to make him seem more human.
Yes, that's what it is. I was going to drop a bombshell. I would really love if this layer approach, and hopefully my voice is going to come through as opposed to the dog.
Yeah, we got you.
I would have loved if the layered approach was something we could apply. I wish we could have used the layered approach. It's something we could apply to systems. Yeah. All right, I'm not going to do anything here.
The layered approach. Matt wishes we could have used the layered approach for something.
For systems.
Hamburger. Hamburger.
The layered approach as I read through it, the layered approach probably makes a lot of sense if we look at infrastructure, processing data, right, as layers.
Yeah.
In a more generalized way, and then take the threat library or the threat categories separately, or the patterns separately, but altogether. I'll go back to Maestro is a reinvention of a wheel when the wheel was almost perfectly fine.
Yeah.
How you use the wheel might have been the important bits.
And the wheels had some improvements over time, too. They're not made out of stone anymore or anything.
And now they don't even require air.
True. Run forever. All right, folks. Well, thanks for tuning in to the Security Table and hearing us discuss Maestro. Once again, we're not haters. We're just security people for a long time. So it just makes us how we are.
Cynical.
What?
Skeptic.
What? I don't believe you.